everyone! So a little while ago, I released a video on the INFJ duality. INFJs have traits that are often both our strengths as well as our weaknesses. And whether or not their strengths and weaknesses depends on situation, people you're dealing with, how mature the INFJ is, how the traits are used, etc. Paul, the Catholic gaming nerd who also requested this series in the first place, wanted me to go through more examples of how INFJs have a dual nature. I did cover empathy, but that was the only one that I gave in the first video. Before we head into this, I will say that this is primarily from my own experiences. This is not really scientifically supported stuff. This series is meant to be a bit more personal, and it's meant to talk about my own experiences, not just purely scientific supported facts like what I talk about in my other videos. Now, I do have to warn you that I do tend to score very close to INTJ, and I see a lot of INTJ traits in myself. Well, maybe you INTJs out there can relate to some of this, and for those INFJs out there watching, maybe some of this won't quite relate to you as much as it could, but I'm guessing still a lot of it will sound a lot like you. And thank you to my sister for contributing and letting me talk about some of the experiences that she has had. She's also an INFJ who also scores close to INTJ. We're practically twins despite 5 years apart. My parents have no gene shuffle. Paul gave me a list, so detecting intuitive patterns, although I'm going to talk about intuition in general. Intuition can obviously tell you a lot without needing to actually see and experience things. The downside about this is that, well, since INFJs do detect patterns, sometimes we detect patterns that are not there or overreach meaning. We put this fact and this fact and this fact together, so that must mean that, I don't know, this guy is a pervert. Another weakness that I have found is that intuition doesn't necessarily come from hard and fast facts that you can pick up and point to. I have run into this so many times where I could sense that something was off, and I did not know what it was. Something that my sister experienced when it comes to this trait is she has a very good friend who shall remain anonymous and nameless for obvious reasons. And this friend was talking a few years ago, I believe now, probably about 2016, something like that. She was going to get married soon. And my sister didn't know the guy. She just knew what her friend told her about this guy. And she was telling her some stuff like, yeah, we don't really talk about much or communicate much, which that's already a bad sign as far as fact. My sister was getting these really bad vibes of this doesn't look like a good match. She kept talking to this friend and kept getting worse and worse vibes. She didn't want her to get hurt, and she's like, well, maybe you should tap the brakes. It seems like there might be some red flags. Of course, she didn't have all that much that she could go off of, and her friend was like, oh, we'll work it out. It'll all be okay. Fast forward to now, her friend has been through 2 very nasty divorces. I know at least one has been abusive. I think 2 have been. She's on her 3rd marriage now. And even on the 2nd marriage, my sister was like, there's some things that you want to be concerned about. Oh, it'll be okay. Don't worry about it. The second one that he listed is future-oriented. I would say that as far as a downside, it really isn't too different from any other trait, really, but you want to keep a balance. If you get too future-oriented, then you forget to enjoy the process, you forget to enjoy the journey, and you forget sometimes why you wanted to do this in the first place. I can get so wrapped up with my goals and plans for the future, I tend to ignore the present. Not even the past, really. I actually think that I savor the past and good memories more than I do the moment. But as far as savoring the present moment enough to really enjoy it, I have massive trouble with the present. And I'm working to get myself out of that. And if you want to hear more about my journey of learning how to savor the process and how to be more in tune with the moment, then, ask me if you want that kind of video, and I'll be happy to make one. And the ironic part about getting so wrapped up in the future, if you get to where you get so wrapped up that you can't, like I said, enjoy the present, it gets hard to continue going forward into the future that you want. I want to make YouTube my career, be able to devote all my time to this community, but reaching that goal became even further out of my grasp because I was too focused on that time and not enough actually making the journey. Burnout and stress are gonna follow on the heels of being too wrapped up in the future. I'm not saying that you shouldn't make future plans and that you should not think about your goals and your aspirations. You need to think about that. But just don't forget where you are on your journey. If you're not enjoying the journey to your destination, you may never make it to your destination. So the next one Paul listed was logical side, or as he put it, hidden logical side. I think he's trying to tell us INFJs something. Well, Paul, I would say as far as logical side, or the hidden logical side of INFJs, I feel like here's where I may not be all that representative of an INFJ who's a bit more stereotypical. So INFJs out there may or may not fit you, but hear me out, it might, you know. I'm kind of curious, actually. You know what? If you're an INFJ, I would love to know if this actually does occur with you, or if it is just me because I'm kind of veering toward INTJ. I would love to know. I have wondered this a long time, so please leave me a comment. But my own experience has been my logical side kind of, I would say it's a little bit at war with my intuition, because my logical side says, hey, I want you to see bam, 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 all this in front of you before you make any kind of decision. So where's your proof? And my intuition says, I don't have proof, but I can tell something's wrong here. What's wrong here? I need to see some proof. I don't really have proof. I just know that there's something wrong, but how can you know it without proof? Because I can feel it. How are feelings proof? Like, that is the give and take that I have, or I should say I used to have. Nowadays, I trust my intuition more. And the reason why I do is because of one particular experience. Now, the story that got me to finally trusting my intuition, I will not cry. I will not. There was a man that I used to date, and we seemed perfect for each other. We talked several days a week or nights a week, and we talked like there was no tomorrow, and we had pretty much everything in common. I mean, obviously not 100% everything, but as everything as you can get for two people. And we understood each other on a level that I had never really known outside of my family. And I didn't know why, but eventually everything fizzled as far as feelings. And I had no idea why, and it hurt enough that I didn't know. But I think what hurt me the most was the fact that I couldn't explain it to him. I had to tell him, and I told him quite late in the game because I wanted to keep trying and I didn't want to stress him out. But eventually I did have to tell him whenever things did not continue to go as planned. Or I should say as I wanted. And yeah, it hurt. And I didn't know what happened. We seemed perfect for each other, but something had happened. I had no idea what at the time, but after getting older and dating more, and just having, well, most of my friends are men too, and so, you know, just more experience around guys in general, not just dating, but friendships as well. I've realized that what was going on was my intuition had been telling me something that my logical side, well, I didn't know, so my logical side kept saying, it's good. Everything is good because there's this and this and this and this. And my intuition's like, yes, but. It wasn't until later that I realized that my intuition was telling me that there was something about myself that I didn't know, nor did I know I wanted in a man. And that thing that I didn't know that I wanted in a man was ambition. And I don't mean selfish ambition. I mean wanting to leave a legacy, wanting to make an impact, to innovate. I am highly attracted to men who want to start their own businesses and men who really want to make a difference in other people's lives. They don't want to just go out there and do it for the money. They want to go out there and do it for the people. Selfless ambition. If they get something out of it too, great. I do want them to be fulfilled too, but my point being, before I ramble on, this man didn't have that. And I didn't know that I wanted that. I didn't know that I was like that. I want to make YouTube as a career. And, you know, I want to make a living off of it so that I'm able to do this full time and not have to split up my energy and my time and my effort between a job and doing this. But I had grown up all my life feeling like all you do is you get an education and then you go out and get a job and make money. That's your life. And I knew I was always unsatisfied with that. It's certainly not a bad thing to want, but it's not what I want. And my intuition was telling me that. And I see it so clearly now, but I couldn't at the time because, well, I met him whenever I was 17. I didn't know myself that well, and now I do. I want to make a bigger impact and a bigger legacy beyond a fat paycheck. I want to build something. I want to create a community. I want to help people come together. I want this world to be better because I walked on it. It's not that my intuition was saying there was anything wrong with him. It's just that I was seeking something different. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. This is why I don't like to talk about my personal experiences. Whenever I speak from the heart, it's not that I'm sad. I'm not sad. I just cry because I'm getting emotional and vulnerable. I cry when I'm vulnerable, not always when I'm sad. Anyway, if I had listened to my intuition instead of prioritizing my logic, I think I would have, one, tried listening to what it was telling me and maybe figured this out sooner. And two, I wouldn't have stayed in the relationship as long and maybe I could have explained what was going on because it took me a while. The next point that Paul wants me to address... Oh wait, those are all the ones that he wants me to address, but I'm going to address a few of my own now. The next one that I have written down is ability to hyperfocus. I actually have heard from a lot of sources that seem pretty darn reliable that INJs in general, INFJs and INTJs, we're terrible at multitasking, but we can hyperfocus. We zoom in on a task and we are just really concentrated on that thing, or in some cases on that person. And let me tell you that whenever I am video editing, it is a long process. So it is great to have hyperfocus. It helps us to meet schedules well. It also helps us, I guess you could say, work for ourselves really well. Going back to something that my sister experienced in college, she took a lot of independent study whenever she was in college, and she went to college for art. For something that people say is just a hobby, they sure are rigorous with art. And let me be first to say, art is only a hobby if you treat it as such. My sister is a professional. My point being, she took a lot of independent study. The professors would approve the project and approve the schedule, but it was up to her to maintain the schedule, to get it done on time, on the dates that she had set for herself. One of her professors said that he was really impressed with her ability to govern herself. She had exactly what she wanted to do. She had all the schedules made. She knew what steps had to be done, and she was able to pace herself and have it done right on time. He said that most students cannot do that. They set these goals and then they fall behind because they're not able to focus. I would say that's definitely an advantage of being able to hyperfocus, but on the flip side, getting into the duality of how this is also a weakness, we make up for that hyperfocus, that ability to really hone in on one task. We make up for that in like practically the inability to multitask. Now, let me get something straight here. Whenever I did take cognitive psychology, my professor said that really nobody is good at multitasking. That's just not a skill that most people can do. There are what's called supertaskers, who are people who are able to actually juggle a bunch of stuff at the same time really well without losing a whole bunch of attention and time flipping from one task to another. Because that's really all multitasking is quickly flipping from focus on this task to this one, to this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. It's really not focusing on multiple things at once, it's just switching attention quickly. And you do lose a lot of time, and you do lose a lot of focus doing that. INFJs and I think INTJs, I have heard, have trouble with this. I was a cashier right out of high school and partly into college. I'm an INFJ on a public service job. You could get written up if you did not talk to the customers and smile and say hi. You could get in big trouble. So whenever I'm checking out a customer, I was scanning, I was bagging, I was putting in the codes for fruit and vegetables. Manually, I had to type it in. And I was trying to talk to the customer, and I was usually not very good at doing all this. Never again. I was terrible at it. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, well, I can't do it because I don't believe in myself and I'm not confident. No, I just know my skills, people. I just know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. I made so many mistakes. Whenever I would type in a 4-digit code for fruit, if you pressed the wrong button, it would ring up as the price instead of the code for the fruit. And I would do that a lot because I did so much everything else. I was juggling and I just could not keep it all straight. Oh, my head is spinning just thinking about it. Peace and serenity. Peace and serenity. So instead of typing in the code 4325, say, for grapes, that's not really the code, but you know what I mean. Instead of typing in that code, and then it would come up as like $2, maybe $3, it would come up to $43.52. And I did that a lot. I actually had one of the managers ask if I was stupid. At the time, I thought maybe I was, because all these other cashiers did not struggle. And once I found out about INFJs and INTJs at customer service jobs, they say don't go into that because it's just not your natural skill level. And I'm like, oh, I'm not stupid. I don't have that strength in my personality like some people do naturally. Oh, it's not impossible to achieve work-life balance if you're an INJ, but it might be a little harder on you. And definitely, I really don't advise service jobs. I advise something that's more self-regulatory behind the scenes. I can speak from experience. Next, deep thinking and contemplation. We hate small talk. I get nightmares about small talk. We like a level deeper. It's like, let's just not talk about what, say, celebrity gossip. Ugh. But if I'm going to talk about that and someone's going to insist upon that topic with me, they might be like, oh, so-and-so did this over the weekend. And I'll be like, why do you think they did that? What principle is at play? What are the concepts underlying the interaction? What can we learn from this? If I'm going to talk about that stuff, I want it to be something deeper, not just surface level. One big downside is that INFJs can be seen as snobby sometimes by people who don't understand what it is that we're wanting out of their interaction. It's not really that they're maliciously denying us this conversation or that they're shallow. It's just they don't quite realize what it is that we're wanting in a good interaction that we find wholesome and fulfilling. You don't always realize what it is that the other person wants, and that can lead to some misunderstandings. This is also a reason why public service jobs can be extremely draining for INFJs, because small talk, I mean, what are you gonna do? Turn to a customer and be like, hey, how are you today? What's your philosophy of life? Please tell me everything. The last one that I have is extremely complex. I know the Catholic gaming nerd is often call me contradictory, so he's probably laughing right now. Enjoy it, Paul. Savor it. I'm admitting right now we can be kind of contradictory. Just the fact that I'm talking about the duality of INFJ nature already says contradictory. But to get back to my point, I think this might be a little easier for you to see, even if you're not an INFJ, how being complex could be a negative thing at certain times. Whenever you go through life around people who don't understand you, unless you're really, really lucky and happen to be surrounded by a whole bunch of people who A, really try hard to get you, or B, are similar types to where you just naturally get each other. Unless you're in those circumstances, you are gonna grow up feeling like an oddball, the black sheep of the family, the black sheep of the whole school sometimes. I can tell you I have felt that way. And that's hard enough, but there's also a point where we don't understand ourselves until a lot of soul searching has been done. It's like trying to run on a treadmill that you don't know how to work. And it's going up and down, and you're like, why is it suddenly tilting me backward, and I'm having more trouble running, and then suddenly it slows to a grinding halt, and you're like, what the heck happened? That is trying to manage yourself as an INFJ until you've figured yourself out more. Now, this doesn't mean that we can't figure ourselves out, or that we can't explain ourselves. It doesn't mean that at all. Even if you understand yourself, it still may be hard to verbalize some of what you're feeling and thinking because it's just not something that's easy to verbalize. I mean, there are still times whenever I'm like, oh, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? What am I thinking? And, you know, it still happens, but I have the knowledge of how to understand myself. Even if I don't understand every aspect of myself, I at least kind of have the habit and the know-how down to really understand myself going forward. So whenever I'm hit with an unexpected emotion, it's like, it doesn't take as long for me to kind of understand it. I hope this was enough examples for you, Paul. And for everyone else watching, if you're an INFJ, maybe this was relatable to you. And maybe this really hit home. Maybe it didn't. I really would love to hear about it in the comments section. And for those of you who are not INFJs, I would love to know just what you thought about everything that I said. Part of this is selfish because I do kind of want to know if I'm alone in some of this. Know if there's other people who've experienced what I have. Whatever type you are, I hope that you learn to live nothing less than your best lives. Please go out there, work on understanding other people and understanding yourself. Bye! Mwah.